Good evening and thank you for joining us. A 25-year-old man has died after a Thursday night hit and run on the city's south side. A 58-year-old man has been charged with failure to stop at an accident resulting in death and appeared in court today. Police are thanking the public after the release of this surveillance footage yesterday, showing what they believed to be the vehicle involved. The service says it resulted in a number of citizens and businesses contributing to the investigation. The victim was struck in the Simpson and Pruden Street area and died after being taken to hospital. The man charged has been released from custody with conditions and a future court date. City Council heard the annual update regarding the challenges of poverty in Thunder Bay. It was carried out by the Lakehead Social Planning Council and outlined how significant these issues are in the city.
We're living in a city with more than 50% of the people living below the poverty line right now. And that's very grave because there are definite consequences when people live in poverty. It also costs our community a great deal of financial resources when that happens, and also staffing resources for all of the organizations, et cetera, that are supporting people that live with low incomes.
The presentation was provided by Program Manager Bonnie Krizawati. The report found Thunder Bay's poverty line to be just over $49,000 a year, and that Northern Ontario workers need to earn $19.80 an hour to make a living wage. Krizawati says addressing poverty in Thunder Bay will benefit all areas of the city.
If we eliminate poverty, we would eliminate homelessness. We would be able to offer all of the supports and services that people needed. So it's imperative that the council works towards helping to eliminate poverty and also advocating for it.
Council was also asked to maintain its annual financial support of $50,000 to benefit the organization's poverty reduction efforts. The Township of Ignace was able to fund over $1.7 million in infrastructure projects last year through its agreement with the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. That group is considering putting a nuclear waste disposal site in the Ignace area. The money went to various services, including the library and fire department, and newly appointed Mayor Kim Bakery says she's looking forward to another productive year. Jessica Clement has the story.
With Ignace being on the short list for the NWMO's Deep Geological Repository, the township has been receiving millions of dollars in recent years for capital spending and projects. Last year, $1.7 million in NWMO money was spent on various projects around the township, including a new $700,000 fire truck, a 3D printer for Ignace Public Library, and new playground equipment. Newly appointed Mayor Kim Bakery says it's been an amazing opportunity for the community, and while they're not sure what'll be purchased yet, she's expecting a similar amount for this year.
It falls under different criterias, and actually council has to approve what is going to be spent, and then NWMO has to approve as well what is being spent on.
Township Council recently made Bakery the official mayor in a 3-2 vote after she served months as interim mayor. She says it feels good to be in the position for the rest of this term and is looking forward to leading the community in a positive direction.
We have almost 3 years to complete now, and I'm just looking forward to moving this community forward in a positive direction, all working together, listening to the community, what their concerns are, what their voices are, and moving forward from there.
A key part of the township's to-do list for 2024 is deciding whether it truly wants to host the NWMO's Deep Geological Repository. As part of the decision-making process, a willingness process is underway, with studies to gauge residents' support for the project. There is some uncertainty with the township's willingness committee, as it had its activities suspended by council on January 4th. However, a recent media release says the willingness process will continue over the next year, with a study that will report the findings to its newly restructured willingness committee. Bakery says the township wants to be sure that there are sufficient guidelines to support the committee.
We want the bylaws in place for that. We want the community members, the ones that were on the willingness will be back into that. And we will have some new members. We wanted to attract everyone, and we want them to have the training so that we can work together and move the community forward.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
First Nations in Ontario want the Ford government to put a one-year moratorium on mining claims. The chiefs say the number of claims staked on their territories has gone up 30% in the last year, and that it's too much to deal with. Here's CTV's Sergio Arangio.
This method of claim staking was replaced several years ago in Ontario with online tools, but First Nations chiefs say it subverted the need to consult with Indigenous communities and respect their treaty rights. Ontario Regional Chief Glenn Hare says a one-year pause on further mining claims is needed, writing in a statement a 365-day moratorium is necessary, as it will give First Nations communities the time that is required to assess the impacts of the Mining Lands Administration system, the effects of the mine claims currently being staked, as well as develop a process whereby meaningful and fulsome engagement and consultation can be integrated into the Mining Land Administration system processes. But a Timmins Area Prospector Association says people rely on claim staking to make a living.
People will stake a lot of claims because it's not very expensive, and they may not do anything with them, but they can hold them for 2 years, and maybe if they can vend them to somebody or get somebody interested, they might make some money. But I would say a good 80% of those claims are going to drop within 2 years. So it's not that big of an issue.
McCrae says mining companies are still required to consult with First Nations before beginning any work. The province said this on the matter: Ontario meets the Crown's duty to consult obligations on all resource projects across the province. The Aboriginal Participation Fund supports First Nations throughout the consultation process, and resource revenue sharing agreements continue to provide partners with long-term economic support. Ontario will continue to chart a path towards meaningful reconciliation as we look to improve the health, social, and economic well-being of all First Nations. McCrae adds that a one-year moratorium on mining claims may affect investments in Northern Ontario. The Chiefs of Ontario argue that First Nations should be involved from the start, and that a pause offers time to help sort out their concerns and ensure that treaty rights are not violated further. They want consultation to be made a part of the online claim staking process. Sergio Arangio, CTV News, Timmins.
People in Thunder Bay and across the region have been struggling to find family doctors. Well, in Sault Ste. Marie, 10,000 people who currently have one aren't expected to in the coming months. With more, here's CTV's Corey Nordstrom.
With 10,000 people recently being told they have until the end of May until they no longer have a family doctor, officials in the Soo are scrambling to address the issue. MPP Ross Romano is forming a task force to find solutions to the primary care problem. He has also been working with the group health center to learn more about the current situation.
They have provided me with a summary of all of their funding applications. I have reviewed those with the Ministry of Health, as well as every other application that is presently before the Ministry of Health that relates to our community.
Meanwhile, Mayor Matthew Shoemaker is looking to broaden the search for new doctors and others in the healthcare field.
We can expand the scope of our recruitment committee, not just to be physicians, but to be primary care providers. So that would include potentially nurse practitioners. That would include potentially physician assistants.
A statement from the Sioux Area Hospital's CEO, Isla Watson, says this will have a significant impact on Sioux Area Hospital's emergency department, overall operations, and wait times. As a system and a community, we need to work together to promote and accelerate advocacy to achieve significant transformation of our healthcare system. Local officials say attracting more healthcare providers is one thing, but lightening their load is also important. They say doctors spend 20 hours per week on paperwork that could be done by administrative assistants.
Finding specialists outside of town to send their referrals to, coordinating their refills, dealing with all the paperwork results that come in and managing to ensure that their care is provided in a seamless and timely fashion is all done in those hours.
Officials with the Ontario Medical Association say this situation in the Soo is demoralizing and represents the future of family medicine across the province in the next 2 to 3 years, particularly in rural and northern communities. They believe the province needs to fund local health teams to bring in other health professionals to ease the load on primary care providers. Corey Nordstrom, CTV News, Sault Ste. Marie.
The Ontario Autism Coalition has unveiled its new board of directors. Local resident Alina Cameron was re-elected as president of the board and says she's happy to still be leading an organization that can bring positive change for the autism community.
They talk to the decision makers, and I feel like instead of fighting for what little scraps are available locally, we can go straight to the decision makers and have them make some real change that's meaningful and long-lasting.
Looking back on the past year at the helm, Cameron says their accomplishments include re-establishing communications with the minister's office and making it possible for families to talk to MPPs on their turf. This year, Cameron is hoping to maintain communications with the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services, as well as the Ministry of Education. She says they're also planning on putting a bit more pressure on the Ford government.
Minister Parks has been in that seat since March, and we haven't seen much movement when it comes to families coming off that wait list. There's presently over 60,000 children waiting for core services access in Ontario, and we need to get that wait list moving faster.
Thunder Bay's Madison Shell is also now on the 18-member board. And we're now joined by sports anchor Josh Morano. Josh, we got some Thunderwolves basketball to talk about.
We do, and I don't know about you, Vasi, but I really want to see a playoff game at the Thunderdome.
Oh, it's something else, man. It's something else.
I'm really looking forward to it, and the men seem like they're on track to give us that. We'll have that story coming up for you after the break.